Hey Cheesecake Nation, what is happening? It's your old pal Super Chudge Funk blasting at ya with my 2014 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie review. Now, before I get started, I'm a huge Ninja Turtles fan, as you can plainly see. I love the series. I've been a fan of the franchise since I was just a little kid. And I've loved it ever since, and I was pretty skeptical about this movie. I didn't get my hopes up, because some of you may have known there was a lot of controversy going on with this movie in terms of how it was made, the script, everything about it was just kind of weird. And I'll get into that in a little bit, but first and foremost, I want to say I really enjoyed the movie. As a fan of the series, I think it was a decent adaptation to the Turtles mythos. There was a few things I would have done differently. Just, I don't know, like, I really enjoyed it for what it was. And I think that Turtles fans should like it. Like, again, there's some things that other fans may not particularly like, but you know, you gotta take the good with the bad. You gotta be able to understand why the studio does things they do, and you just gotta roll with it, you know? Now, for non-Turtles fans, I can't really say I recommend this movie. It's just one of those kinds of movies that was pretty much made for fans. That's pretty much all it is, really. I mean, I'm sure if you go online, most of the reviews you guys will see aren't going to be that great. Like when the movie first came out, it was a lot of half and half. There was some good reviews, there were some bad reviews. But critics obviously aren't going to like this movie. It's so hard to explain because those are basically your two kinds of movies. But I don't know. If you're not a Turtles fan, don't bother. If you are a Turtles fan, I highly recommend it. I think that if you can... I don't know, like, there are some things that fans will like, there are some things that fans won't like. I know that I like certain things about the movie that I know other fans don't like. It's all... all depends on your tastes. All depends on what you care about in a movie or for the franchise. But, I'll just get into some basic stuff, and then I'll get into some spoilers later on. I'm gonna try not to rant too much. But, anyway, the Turtles, first and foremost, were amazing. Obviously, the focal point of the movie, you know, the movie's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but God, I think they were very well represented. I think, the voices were phenomenal. I think Johnny Knoxville did a great job as Leonardo. Like, the first words to come out of his mouth were they were such a Leonardo thing to say, you know. Like, it's just, oh man, they did a really good job with the voices. Mikey's voice didn't feel too over the top, and you know, like the people who did the voices were, you know, they didn't feel like they were doing a voice. Like, to me, Donatello's voice was great. He sounded like a nerd. Raphael felt, you know, he had a very rough and tough voice. And I think they executed that pretty well. I honestly don't mind the way they look. I actually kind of like the way they look. Just because, especially if they were going for a more realistic setting. And I never thought about it before, but the Turtles and how they're usually drawn all over the other continuities and stuff, they never have nostrils. And it's weird to think how something so simple as putting nostrils on a character that doesn't normally have them can just radically change how they look. And, you know, the lips were a little weird, you know. People were comparing them to Shrek. Uh, but I don't know. I like the way they look. I think it's a welcome change for me. And I know I'm one of the few people that, have that opinion. I know most people don't like it. And, I honestly don't blame you. But you gotta, let change happen, I think they look cool. I like the fact that they're big and bulky. I like the fact that they actually have superpowers. The main reason why I think they did that is just because with all the other superhero movies that are around nowadays, I think they wanted to be able to make them look like they could stand toe-to-toe with some other heroes, giving them, like, that super strength. It blew my mind when I saw, like, Raph and Mikey just punching through cars and stuff. Because you don't see that in the other shows and movies and stuff. They have very base level, like, probably above average human strength. Probably similar to that of, like, Batman. Where there's not a whole lot of base humans that are going to be stronger than them. I do like the fact that Leonardo is big enough to actually have katanas instead of just ninjakin or whatever else I think they have another name for them, but yeah, he actually uses katanas, and it works because he's big enough to wield them as one-handed weapons. I thought that was really cool. I'm not 100% on all the stuff that they had on them. Like, I liked Leonardo's little, like, armor that he had on the front of his shell. Like, Mikey's seashell necklace was cool. I don't know about the clothes. I don't think they needed clothes, really. Donatello was the one that a lot of people were concerned about. Well, glasses, for one thing. All the tech he had on the back of his shell. I don't think he necessarily needed them, but I actually liked them. I would have been butthurt if they didn't have it, but I actually like them. I just think that all this stuff that they put on them makes them more personalized, and it helps people who don't know anything about them get a feeling for, like, their personalities, Again, their voices coupled with all that stuff. It gives people, like, right away, they know what their personalities are like. And, but the one thing that I would have kept on Donnie more than anything else were his goggles. I think those were really cool. And somebody like Donatello, who is far and away probably one of the smartest characters in all of comics. Like, he's right up there with, like, Mr. Fantastic and Hank Pym. Like, he's a clear cut for Scientist Supreme. But, I just really like the Turtles. They did a really good job with them. Definitely the best represented characters throughout the entire movie. Splinter was one of the characters that I'm kind of iffy on. I'll get into the actual origins of the Turtles in my spoilers. That'll be the first thing I talk about, because I know a lot of Turtles fans want to know that. Because it's not so much a spoiler, it's just, they want to know because it is literally the most important part of any Turtles interpretation, mostly. Because that's how you set up the rest of the story. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of Splinter. In the movie, the background of him was, but him as a character I really liked. I liked how he used his tail when he, fought in the one scene where the turtles sneak back. How he disciplines them was really funny. That's another thing about the Turtles. They actually felt like teenagers. And that's a thing that Nickelodeon did really well with their animated series. They made them a little bit younger, a little more inexperienced. And in this movie, they're pretty much at that peak of their training, like in pretty much all the other continuities. But they still felt younger. The way that they did things, like the elevator scene. I'm not sure how many people actually like that scene, but I liked it. Because they're supposed to be teenagers, most of the other continuities, they felt like young adult Ninja Turtles, like they could be my age. Like, I'm 26, But yes, going back to Splinter on that note, he was really cool. One of the coolest scenes of the movie was his fight scene with the Shredder. It's so cool to see Splinter fight because you don't see it that often in other continuities and shows and stuff. Because he's supposed to be old, and like every time they make a Splinter that can fight, I fall in love with it because I just like to see him fight. But yeah, he was okay. His design was a little weird, but I'll get into that when I do spoilers, because it's a part, like, why it doesn't feel right is part of his backstory, so I'll get into that. Megan Fox did a surprisingly good job as April, to me. I think she captured, like, who April O'Neil as a reporter is. Because there's basically, aside of the Nicktoons verse where she's a kid, the other version of April is the comic books where she's a scientist. And goddamn, I don't know if Megan Fox could have pulled off a scientist, but I think she did a good job. There were some parts that were iffy, but I don't think that was her fault. I think it was just like how she was written. So I don't know. I think she did all right. Not 100% on Vernon, just because I grew up with the 80s Turtles, and Vernon was this whiny, snobby douchebag. And he came off more of as like he was flirtatious and thinking he was, the shit. And I don't dislike it, but just it would have made my day if he was more like original Vernon. Whoopi Goldberg's character was Bernadette Thompson. For those of you who don't know what significance that is, April's boss in the 80s cartoon was Bern Thompson. I think, if this is Bern. But, and he was basically like what J. Jonah Jameson is to Spider-Man in that regard. And I think she did alright. Whoopi Goldberg did alright. Don't know why they made Bern Thompson a woman, but... And, with those two characters, there was another human character that was throughout the movie, very small, was April's roommate, whose name escapes me because she wasn't that important. Why was she not Irma? We're going with Vernon and Bernadette, who the two other characters that were prolific through the 80s cartoon. Why not Irma? Are they going to put Irma in later? In a sequel? Which I'm assuming we're going to get. I mean, I haven't gotten a chance to look at like the numbers for like the opening weekend and what they've made so far. But all I know is that they're planning on making a sequel if the movie does alright. Now, Casey Jones wasn't in the movie, but there are three characters that they said they were going to put in the movie that they really, really wanted to put in. That was Casey Jones and Rocksteady and Bebop. So I would love to see those guys, especially Rocksteady and Bebop. Baxter Stockman wasn't in the movie, even though, like, if you go on, like, some websites, he's credited in there. And I didn't see him. Maybe he was a background character, I guess, but he wasn't a character in the movie by name. And that kind of disappointed me. Because I think Baxter Stockman would do really well as a character. Because he's other than Shredder and Krang, who Krang wasn't in the movie, obviously, but he's like right there in terms of Ninja Turtle villains. And I was surprised he wasn't there. Hopefully he'll be in the next one. He'll play a bigger role. Last character to really talk about was the Shredder. And I know when I was watching it, waiting, because Eric Sachs, who's the new random white guy who everybody thought was going to be the Shredder, he wasn't the Shredder. And I think that in of itself threw a lot of people off, because that's pretty much what he was credited as online. So a lot of people immediately just were thrown off by that. But I'm telling you guys right now, he's not the Shredder. The actual Shredder in this movie is fucking awesome. He's Japanese, like he should be. They never refer to him as Oroku Saki which kind of bothered me, but I don't know. But he was awesome. He spoke a lot of Japanese. The only time he didn't speak Japanese was when he was talking to the turtles. And there's a part where he's talking to Eric Sachs when they find out that the turtles exist. He says those immortal words, "Tonight I dine on turtle soup." Beautiful. Like, I thought that was awesome. And he said it in Japanese too, which I thought was really cool. And Shredder, gosh, this movie is rated PG-13, and it's a much softer PG-13 than Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think it's okay to take your kids to go see it, because there's not a whole lot of, like, swearing in it. There's no blood or anything, I think, as far as I can remember. But it's, maybe not little kids. If they're closer to the teens, like, I would recommend it. I think they'll like it. But, because Shredder is kind of scary looking. Like, he's got knives on his knives on his knives. He's very imposing, very intimidating, and I really like that in a Shredder. But yeah, it's so hard for me to rate this movie with a number, because it's just not like a regular movie. It's supposed to be a movie that entertains the Turtles fans and to help celebrate the 30th anniversary. So, I don't know, like, I give it a 6. Nice big thumb up. I give it a 6, just because I think Turtles fans can really like it. But they just gotta get the sticks out of their asses about all the little changes that were made. And just take it for what it is, guys. The Turtles are a blast. The human characters aren't terrible. Stanley's over there scratching himself. But, so yeah, like, again, if you're not a Ninja Turtles fan, don't bother. It's just one of those kind of movies. If you do want to go see a good movie that has that same kind of, you know, it's a comic book movie, a lot of action, a lot of comedy, go see Guardians of the Galaxy. Stanley's scratching himself again. Yeah, I'll put a link in the description to the DFC review of Guardians of the Galaxy. And so you guys can, you know, look at that. So anyway, I'll get on to the spoilers now.